All right, it looks like we have a quorum here. So thank you everyone for joining us and welcome to our second webinar in our Eco Champions live webinar series. My name is Amber Artrip and I am the Vice President of Marketing at Energy Cap. A few housekeeping items before we get into today's interview. Just so you know, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on energycap.com within 24 hours of the end of the webinar. So keep an eye out for that. We will also be sending you anyone who registered an email with a direct link to the webinar recording. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom panel and submit your question that way. We will get to all of our questions at the end of the session. And if we're not able to get to your question for any reason, we will follow up with you after the webinar is over. Without further delay, let's get into it. As I mentioned, my name is Amber Artrip. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Energy Cap. And for those of you who are not familiar with Energy Cap, we are an energy and sustainability ERP that allows you to effectively track your energy usage and cost data in a single platform. If you're curious what an energy and sustainability ERP is, it's a software platform that serves as the single source of truth for all of your energy and sustainability data points. This is becoming more and more crucial for energy and sustainability teams because we're seeing energy sustainability accounting teams even coming together around common decarbonization goals. And it's vital that all of these teams are working from the same data, and Energy Cap helps make that possible. So a little bit about our Eco Champions series, webinar series that we're doing here today. You know, one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to talk to customers and hear how they're using technology and best practices to, you know, do really, really great work at their organizations. Every time I connect with a customer, I learn something new. And so we thought we would find ways to elevate those stories. And that is kind of the genesis of this Eco Champions webinar series and community. Next slide here. So a little bit about this community that we've created. The Eco Champions community is the convergence of energy, sustainability, finance, and leadership teams who are working together around the common goal of decarbonization. We're an alliance of energy and sustainability practitioners, educators, executives, industry analysts, and thought leaders who are joining together to share ideas, to challenge the status quo, and push forward together in building a more sustainable world. The real goal of this community is to elevate best practices, share technology and innovation, and to achieve sustainability through responsible consumption of the Earth's finite resources. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see Alex here. Our very first, or I guess our second guest on our Eco Champions webinar series is Alex Trachtenberg, and he serves as the Energy and Sustainability Manager at Fulton County government in Georgia. So welcome to our Eco Champions webinar series, Alex. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks for the invite. Thanks to everyone who's here today. Excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Well, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and your work at Fulton County?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Alex Trachtenberg. I'm currently serving as the Energy and Sustainability Manager for Fulton County government in Georgia. If folks aren't familiar with Fulton County, the county seat is the city of Atlanta. We're made up of 15 municipalities across the county. We're the most populous county in the state of Georgia at just a little bit over 1 million people. And yeah, there's a lot of counties in Georgia. There's 159 of them. So yeah, arguably the most diverse and dynamic and home to many Fortune 500 companies and lots of different communities and happenings. Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, born and raised. I went to college at the University of Colorado Boulder to pursue an environmental studies degree in policy and planning. I took an environmental science course in high school and just kind of fell in love with the subject matter, and it was something I found to be, really passionate in, and wanted to potentially pursue a career in. And I've always just enjoyed being in nature, outdoors, different recreational activities. Always had, a real passion and love for the natural environment, but also the built and human environment, and how we connect people to nature, how we can work symbiotically together, and make sure that we are using our finite resources as sustainably and responsibly as possible, and making sure that all people, particularly those who are more under-resourced, underserved, disadvantaged, and vulnerable, particularly are centered in any kind of initiatives or programs to create a higher quality of life, a more sustainable place. I got a graduate degree in public policy from Georgia State University, focusing in environmental policy, and started my career at a nonprofit based here in Atlanta called Southface Institute. I was there for a while, a little more than 9 years before I joined the county about a year and a few months ago. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. My wife and I live on the east side of town, and yeah, love going around Atlanta and seeing all the new things going on, and also all the cool old things that are still here. But yeah, a little bit about myself.
Great. Yeah, Atlanta is a very cool city. So, why don't you talk a little bit about Fulton County and some of I know there's a lot of exciting, sustainability initiatives going on. You guys have some pretty aggressive goals. So why don't you share a little bit about what's happening?
Yeah, for sure. So in 2019, our Board of Commissioners adopted the county's first sustainability and resilience plan, covering 6 priority areas. So those being around climate change mitigation and adaptation, social equity and smart transit and transportation, high performance county buildings, education outreach and green jobs training, fostering partnerships, and budgetary appropriation, because you certainly can't do these things without funding. This year, our board actually adopted a slate of updates for 2030 goals. Our existing plan had set out goals for 2020 to 2025. So digging a little bit deeper into what we're doing and what we're striving to achieve. We have a 2025 target of a 20% reduction in our energy use by 2025. We've probably made around a 5% reduction based upon our 2018 baseline right now. So we certainly have more work to do. I'm sure you all can all relate to this. We have millions of square feet, hundreds of buildings all across the geography of the county. A variety of different building characteristics, conditions, systems, equipment, operating behaviors. So it's a lot to pull together. But we've initiated and completed some redevelopment bond programs for some of our facilities, have achieved some good energy and water savings in those facilities. We've been able to get some rebates back from our main investor-owned utility in the state of Georgia, that being Georgia Power Company, and also looking at additional opportunities as well. So for 2030, we have a pretty big goal. We'll see if we can get there, 50% energy usage reduction by 2030. So something that we're more than likely going to need to do, and we've started to look into, is energy savings performance contracting. Can be a really good financing mechanism and a way to engage with energy services companies and get guaranteed savings for energy and water improvements and conservation measures in our buildings. And pay for those essentially over time with the savings that we realize from the improvements that we've made. So it can be a really good way to kind of pull everything together comprehensively across our asset portfolio. Additionally, we're working on renewable energy projects as well. So for 2025, a goal that we have achieved was developing our first renewable energy pilot project. We did that at one of our libraries, Cleveland Avenue Library. We actually own that solar system, that solar photovoltaic array. We were able to get a $50,000 matching grant from the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority. County put up the other half of that, and we're offsetting about 25% of electricity demand there, and have already saved ballpark around $15,000-$20,000. So getting good benefits from that solar installation. We upped the ante for 2030, and we have a goal to offset 25% of our electricity demand, as well as 25% of our carbon dioxide emissions, so decarbonization by 2030. Through renewables, either on-site renewable energy development, mostly going to be solar arrays and solar installations, potentially utility subscription or green tariff programs, and also the purchase of renewable energy certificates or credits as well. So we have completed the first phase of a third-party financing agreement at 7 of our county-owned facilities, mostly a mixture of libraries and health centers that all have rooftop solar arrays, a little bit more than half a megawatt, or about 500 kilowatts of solar capacity there. And certainly have more to go. We have got plenty more opportunities for on-site development, but we're not going to get to 25% of our demand, which is, somewhere around 25 megawatts or so. So a lot of demand there. So we're going to have to subscribe to utility programs. Georgia Power Company just went through their integrated resource planning process, their 3-year energy planning exercise. They go before the Public Service Commission of Georgia. And there's some good new programs and opportunities coming out of that, fortunately, that we can apply for. And then to kind of fill the rest of the gap, make sure that we're supporting the transition in the industry and taking claim to those good environmental attributes and benefits by purchasing renewable energy credits and certificates. On the transit and transportation side, for 25, we've got a goal to transition 20% of our fleet to alternative fuel vehicles. Presently, we probably have about a dozen of our fleet vehicles are what you would classify as alternative fuels, mostly a mixture of hybrids and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. We don't have any full EVs right now, but that's certainly changing. We also only currently have 2 EV charging stations, and those are not public right now. They're in one of our office building garages. But for 2030, we are transitioning 25% of all of our fleet. Our fleet's about 1,000 vehicles or so, or all of our light duty administrative vehicles. So we're leaving out, heavy duty kind of public works vehicles. We're leaving out police and sheriff pursuit type vehicles for now, but are looking to really prioritize electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles going forward, looking at lease as well as capital purchase models, and also installing electric vehicle supply equipment or EV charging stations at all of our viable facilities, not just for our fleet use, but also for public use as well. And certainly trying to work with the other municipalities and organizations across the county to expand that infrastructure. I think, we're all excited about the funding that's coming down from the bipartisan infrastructure law, and lots more funding for electrification of transportation and infrastructure coming out of that. So for this coming year, we're trying to hit 40% of our replacement vehicles being plug-in hybrids, electrics, or full EVs. We are putting in 3 more charging stations. We've purchased them, working on installing those. And Georgia Power actually has a make-ready program that some of your utilities may have, where they will actually pay for the site electrical infrastructure upgrades that need to be made. So just at this one site alone, through that program, no cost to the county, we're saving about $80,000 in electrical system improvements. So a good deal there. We're hoping to get some capital funding approved by the county to put in 18 additional charging stations, a mixture of level 2s and DC fast chargers for public and fleet use. And that'll be about 18 charging units across 5 county facilities located north, south, east, west of the county. We want to make sure people are utilizing as many sustainable or alternative commuting modes and options as possible. So any ways that we can get people outside of single occupancy vehicles and driving alone as much as possible. Goal of 20% of our employees by 2025 using alternative modes. So using our public transit system, predominantly is MARTA, carpooling, could be cycling, walking, etc., and making sure that by working with the other municipalities, we're making those last mile connections as safe, comfortable, and accommodating as possible. For 2030, we want to up that to 50%. And, really teleworking comes into this as well. And I know a lot of us are still teleworking, for a portion of our work weeks, if not totally remote in some situations. And that's certainly another way to help reduce our impact on the environment, reduce our emissions, et cetera. We also have goals around urban agriculture and local farming and food production and making sure folks have access to healthy local food and have a sense of, an ability to engage with community and create those social connections as well. So we want to try and have as many urban farms, gardens, markets, and local food options within 5 miles of every resident. And that certainly happens in partnership with the other cities, as well as other communities and organizations. We have a couple gardens already existing. We're looking at putting in another one, and hopefully get more progress on that as well. Another initiative I'll mention that falls into this space and really covers all these areas is we're working to implement the county's first community resilience hub as well at one of our existing libraries that also falls in the southwest portion of the city of Atlanta. So a resilience hub is a place, it's a concept you all may be familiar with. It's really taken off a lot, since COVID and everything, and rightfully so, but a place where people in a local neighborhood or community have access to in the event of a disruption. So it could be a natural or man-made disaster, but some sort of an emergency situation where you may lose access to power, water, your basic needs, and you have a place nearby that has access to resilient power and energy through a combined solar and battery energy storage system, emergency potable water supply with a rainwater harvesting system that can also be used with the community garden we're planning for the site to irrigate and water that garden on a regular basis. We're putting in electric vehicle charging stations there. And also all the things that happen, not just in an emergency, but on a day-to-day basis to make sure we're promoting that good sense of resiliency on a continual basis, to have good programming and services around a variety of different things that might be of need and priority by the community, but ensuring folks have good access to education and trainings for the clean energy economy, solar trainings, building science, energy efficiency, community gardening and master gardening programs, help with access with job applications, any kind of insurance claims you may need to make, just whatever may be of need and helpful to the community. We're also distributing resilience kits as well. So think of like your emergency your emergency bag you might keep somewhere handy in the house or in your car that has some good supplies and equipment in it that you might need if you find yourself in such a situation. So really excited about that. Be the first one in the county and likely the first one in the state of Georgia as well. Additionally, on the high performance building side, and covered some of this already, but this is where our waste diversion goals come in. So we have a single-use plastics policy at the county. So making sure that any kind of materials we're bringing in through our purchasing, office supplies, hospitality, et cetera, is made of highly recyclable materials, post-consumer, compostable, eco-friendly options as well, and not having things like plastic bags and plastic straws and that kind of stuff. So our waste diversion target for 2025 is 20%. We've started to do a little bit with composting, something I hope we do more of. We've done a bit of a pilot in one of our departments, but definitely want to expand upon that. And for 2030, our waste diversion rate goal is 50%. Right now, we're somewhere around 60%. So we're making good progress and already achieving a lot of these goals in many ways. I'll also mention on high performance county infrastructure, all of the libraries in our library system are all LEED green building program certified. Many of them most are either silver or gold, and we have one platinum, LEED platinum facility as well. That's the library we did the solar installation on, actually. And basically for any of our capital projects, big building renovations, new construction, we seek to do green building certifications such as LEED or something comparable. On the water side, we want to reduce our water consumption by 20% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. We were a participant in the Atlanta Better Buildings Challenge and the National Better Buildings Challenge, and saw some good reductions there and want to continue to see those through. So we're making improvements to our plumbing fixtures, our toilets, our faucets, our sinks, and so on in our facilities, and also looking at our stormwater management as well, and making sure we have low impact design in our landscaping, and good irrigation controls and green stormwater infrastructure and rainwater reuse, et cetera. Certainly have to promote good education outreach and green jobs training. This is a space, we can make some more progress on, but definitely want to collaborate more with our workforce development department and agencies. We've done some green trainings thus far with about 200 people, and hope to do many more of those and establish a variety of different educational training offerings in the green or clean energy space. A goal to train at least 100 people per year and place 75% of them in living wage industry jobs by 2030, and have a focus on and underemployed and folks who are of a more low and moderate income status, socioeconomic status. Partnerships are critical. So we want to reconstitute now that we're kind of coming back from COVID, I guess you could say, getting our internal quote unquote green team back up and running, as well as looking at getting more of an external focused and countywide steering committee or board or whatever, made up of all the 15 cities in the county and different community representatives. We have a citizens commission on the environment that are appointed by our board of commissioners that I work with and our group works with to help move forward issues of concern relating to the environment and sustainability and resiliency. And gosh, we have a ton of different partners that work with us on all of these different projects, whether they're contractors and architecture and engineering and design firms, or they're community-based organizations and not-for-profits. Partnerships are really, really key. As is budget, right? Be honest with you, we don't have dedicated budget for sustainability. So we have to get creative. We have to pull money from other related budget line items. And we certainly continue to go back with requests. We've just prepared our budget requests for 2023. So fingers crossed, we get some dedicated funding for our division. But, we also certainly go for grants, public and private grants. Certainly a lot more federal grants are going to be coming in this space, and some are already out there as a part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. So that's a lot about what we're up to, what we're striving for. And yeah.
Yeah, I have so many questions because you're managing so much. There's so much going on. So I think my first question is kind of two parts. How do you manage it all? It sounds like you use a lot of partners, but then I'm also curious, like, what is the structure of your team, and who all at the county is involved in these various initiatives? Because it's a lot to manage. It's all really great stuff, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm a team of one, division of one. I think folks that work in sustainability and different scales of government, it's probably relatively common. I know it's common for us in our region in the Southeast. You're lucky if you got 2 people. You're really lucky if you've got 3. You got more than 3, you're in a pretty decent place. So we're hoping to hire some more folks and give ourselves some more capacity, but there's certainly internal and external collaboration, which again is really important to help move the work forward. So have other folks in the department that work with recycling and solid waste, that work with our libraries, work with our capital projects and our buildings directly, that all work with folks in our in public works, in our water conservation and water department. We do provide water service for portions of the county, as well as others. And yeah, certainly lots of partners on the outside, with different organizations. And to make a plug, but I mean, having Energy Cap is and other software is super helpful for someone like myself, being a team of one and having so many different things that I'm ultimately responsible for, to keep a lot of those things in one place, to effectively manage it, track it, do reports, identify where there may be data inconsistencies or inaccuracies, be able to flag those and resolve them, have a great team of customer support folks like at Energy Cap to be able to help answer questions, and also all the continuing education we get. So there's a lot of different groups. There's another one that I'll make a plug for that almost feels like an extended office as well of mine, is the Southeast Sustainability Directors Network. So if any folks are in the Southeast, you work for local government and sustainability or resiliency or equity or something related, you can be a member. It's a great peer exchange learning network, and it really helps to build up capacity and knowledge where it may be limited. So it's really great to be a part of that group. And there's so many others. So we've got a real strong and growing network of sustainability professionals across the county, the region, and the state and the country that certainly rely on to help out. But it's really trying to take little bites out of the apple at a time, do the best you can to move things forward as quickly as possible, because I think we all recognize, working in this space, we can't really wait much longer to take significant action on decarbonization activities and transitioning to renewables and solar and energy efficiency, et cetera. So it can be challenging sometimes with the bureaucracy of government to get things done as quickly as you can, but persistence, dedication, and education, I think, of your peers and of leadership is really key to help move things in that right direction.
I'm so glad you mentioned the part about community, because I think that's so important. It's like, especially when you're a team of one, having other people to share ideas with and learn from and explore new opportunities with, like, that's exactly why we started this community as well. So important.
Glad y'all did.
Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit about the challenges of in government, but I imagine that there's some specific challenges when trying to stand up this many initiatives, specifically for county government. So I was wondering if you could maybe unpack those for us a little bit.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's making sure that you're bringing people from various departments and various leadership roles to the table early, as well as coming back to them as often as possible, to work together and collaborate to help solve whatever problem you may be working on, whether it's energy related or water or whatever it may be, and really getting on the same page early, so you don't have to go back later and redo something because someone's like, oh, well, you needed to do this and that and this, and then you feel like you find yourself kind of almost back at square one. We do need to be, as a government, we're responsible to and accountable to our constituents and the taxpayer and residents of the county, and different stakeholders that live, work, and play in Fulton County. So we need to be responsible and we need to be good stewards for sure. So we certainly need to be making sure we're following the right processes. We'll say there's a lot of process, but making sure you're going to the right people early and often, following the right systems for authorizations and approvals, where it goes through the various layers to get up to the Board of Commissioners and gets on an agenda as an item for review and approval and a vote. I think just bringing people in as early and often as you possibly can, and providing as much education and background as possible is helpful, and providing some solutions up front, but maybe not being stuck on just one, being open to some other alternatives as well.
Absolutely. And you touched on this a little bit before, but how do you use technology on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to kind of help you
Yeah.
make, achieve your goals?
Yeah, I'd say use it probably daily. I think I log into Energy Cap probably every day. Between myself and some folks on our department's accounting and finance team, where the bills really kind of come through there, and they'll handle more of the bill capture kind of aspects. But certainly check it probably almost daily whenever you might need to pull data for a certain meter, an account, a different building that we're potentially looking at for a project that may be active or we're planning for, and just checking in on how much progress are we making, with different dashboards and reports we might have set up, against the baselines that we've set, to make sure that we're staying on track as much as possible. So we have several others that we use. We have different dashboards for our solar installations as well, making sure those are performing and producing as designed, and there's not something with the inverter or whatnot that has gone screwy. And then engaging with our vendors and contractors if we need to go out and do a service call or something like that, and tracking the performance, the energy savings, the economic benefits, as well, in order to continue to make the case, right? So going back to like, how do we keep moving things forward? Senior leadership, the board of commissioners are always going to ask, well, what have we done? How much have we saved? What's the benefit to the county, to the constituents? So making sure we're regularly tracking that progress. Also looking at, the emissions reductions we have with some different kinds of climate software. I'm glad to see that Energy Cap is, enhancing some of those functionalities as well, and already has. It's great to have those things in one place. And just as different either bills or different pieces of data come in, making sure they're either automatically uploaded if that capability or service exists, like we have the benefit of with bill capture with Energy Cap, but making sure we're tracking everything regularly, as much as possible. So software is really key, and helpful for planning exercises as well, as you're designing or building a program to best understand where should you be focusing and targeting your resources? Where are the areas that have the greatest needs and opportunities in these spaces? So there's some good mapping software out there that oftentimes is free through people like the Department of Energy or the National Renewable Energy Lab, or we have a great organization based here in Atlanta called the GreenLink Group, or GreenLink Analytics. They have a equity map that they call, with a variety of different indicators you can layer on top of each other to best understand where we should be focusing our efforts in the community.
I love that. So switching gears a little bit, I'd love to talk about specific projects you've worked on, and maybe you can give us your favorite project and why, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. Probably say, and I've talked about this a little bit earlier, but the Resilience Hub has probably been one of my favorites. I think it's a great example of how you look at sustainability and resiliency holistically, and try and provide something real and tangible in a community where people can go, to recover in place, and access the resources they need, whether it's a climate or extreme weather related disruption, or a social or public health related issue like COVID-19 and public health pandemics. We had to be creative with getting the funding for it. We've had to layer many different funding resources. So, we've really gone soup to nuts with the whole thing. We have mostly private resources from foundations that we've been able to be successful with some grant awards for, as well as some county budget has been dedicated to the project and the program as well. But we started this way back in 2020, right before COVID and everything, and had to pivot. We wanted to start the project off with doing a lot of community outreach and engagement, building partnerships in the neighborhood and the communities of the facilities we were considering as candidates for our first resilience hub, and making sure that we're centering their needs and their priorities and concerns within the process early. We weren't super familiar with this whole Zoom thing, as many of us are now very familiar with as day-to-day. I'm sure you all are on as many Zooms on a day-to-day basis as I am. But we had to educate ourselves and figure out how can we make this as interactive and engaging as possible, and enable folks who are attending our meetings to be able to give as much input as possible in an effective manner, and for us to be able to capture it efficiently as well. So we had to think a little bit more about that, but designed a multi-part series to go through various exercises around community asset mapping, kind of reviewing the project goals and the outcomes, looking at, what are your priorities for the varying modes of operation, whether it's a daily, everyday kind of situation, a disruption or emergency or recovery mode, what kind of programs and services do you need? What are the kind of operational procedures? What kind of communications, systems and devices and considerations do we need to have? How do we get the information out and take it in? The power systems, so the energy systems themselves, as well as the building and the landscape, and how we design and improve these existing facilities as much as possible to be as resilient and sustainable to the variety of shocks and stressors that we're experiencing in this changing world. Had to do a bunch of different feasibility analyses around solar and battery storage, worked with some great expert consultants in that space. Looked at battery energy storage and rainwater harvesting predominantly. Also looked at electric vehicle charging stations. Did some building assessments for energy and water efficiency, as well as for resiliency, and had some engineers from our project partner, Southface, join and help us out with those. Did critical loads analysis on the energy demands for the various things that we would want to operate in a time of emergency, and utilize that battery energy storage and backup power, so be able to really focus and bring down those demands and loads as much as possible to stretch the endurance and the duration of how long that battery will last, so we can provide as much service to the community as possible. And then coming back and kind of figuring out which one is the best opportunity right now, given that these activities aren't inexpensive when you're talking about solar and storage and EV charging and rainwater harvesting and all that. So we really only did enough funding to do one. So we did a robust evaluation process, looked at all the community engagement, looked at about all the analyses, assessments, had about 100 criteria we looked at across these different layers and these different kind of components or categories. Looked at vulnerability, looked at the assets, and ended up selecting our Metropolitan Branch Library as the first site for our resilience hub. And throughout that evaluation process, we went back to the community and said, hey, does this look right? Give us your feedback, what needs to be adjusted, and so on. And then you really move into final design and engineering and implementation. As y'all know, in the world we're in with supply chain and labor shortages right now, that's become a little bit challenging, but we've gotten to the point where we've got some good designs. We're starting to engage with some subcontractors, and hopefully be able to purchase the equipment we need and get it installed as soon as possible. So we'll have as much of it as possible done by the end of the year, and we'll probably move into first quarter or so of next year, just given the delivery times, the lead times on some of these things, and the shortages, and the competition for good, qualified, experienced contractors to do these things. But it's been a great project, lots of collaboration, lots of partnership, covering a variety of different initiatives and programs and goals that we have and moving those forward across our sustainability plan. So it's something we certainly want to do more of and come back to those we didn't end up selecting for this go around and others, in the forthcoming and subsequent years and everything.
That's great. I love that resiliency is so important. So it's great to see the focus on that. It's really great. So thinking about the industry holistically, what excites you the most about energy and sustainability and kind of where we're headed as an industry?
Yeah, I think technology has come so far. It's incredible to look at solar being at least at grid parity, wind in that category as well. Energy efficiency certainly being, the least cost resource in that grand scheme, and should certainly be, the first aspect we all undertake, in these kinds of sustainability energy related projects. But to see all of those advancements and to see the costs come down has been really, really exciting to see, the capabilities of software and automation and AI and, with our building automation systems and our controls now to be able to bring everything kind of into one space has really helped us to be more effective and efficient with our work. I think seeing the focus around climate and environmental justice, with the Justice 40 initiative related to the federal infrastructure investments that are being made is great to see that being of a priority, considering that these communities most often of lower income status and typically communities of color that have been more disadvantaged have had to bear the brunt of pollution and climate change more directly, being more of a focus, whereas 40% of that investment has to go into these communities or should be going to that communities is really exciting. I think all the new federal investment that we have coming down the pipe that'll come through our various states and agencies, in some cases may come to our jurisdictions directly in the different competitive programs that we can all apply for as well. I think to see a shift in the policy, from the tone that's being set at the federal level. Personally, I would love to see more action and acceptance by Congress, but we are where we are right now. There's a lot going on in the world and, certainly understand all of that. But I think all of that's really exciting. I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we're seeing, industries make some more improvements where they haven't in the past, such as from the oil and gas industry, but certainly have a lot more work to do.
Couldn't agree more. You actually touched on something that's one of our questions that came in. It's around the bipartisan infrastructure bill and how are you planning to take advantage of it?
Yeah. I'll mention a couple ways. So there's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or NEVI. So each of your responsible state agencies, probably your departments of transportation in most cases, or your DOTs, are going to be receiving a formula allocation for electric vehicle infrastructure, something that you can apply for charging stations, et cetera, to support the electrification of your transportation. Certainly excited about that. Not as much of a need for us right now, just because we don't operate a lot of public transportation anymore, given that so much of our county is incorporated with cities, and that's something that they take care of. Now we pay into our public transit system and certainly collaborate with MARTA and other transit providers, but not as directly anymore. There's a lot of incentives for electric buses, school buses, as well as public transit and transportation. There's some energy efficiency conservation block grants that are coming out as well to help facilitate energy and water, in some cases, project and improvements at facilities. So those are some of the things that have certainly had my eyes on. I'll mention something else that you all may want to check out that I just saw a presentation for the other day. It's called the Climate Program Portal. if you work for a local government or a government, I don't think it has to be local, you work for government, you can subscribe with your .gov or whatever email address. That's how they verify. And it's got a great database where you can toggle things on and off and see all kinds of different funding opportunities that are coming out from the federal government related to energy, sustainability, climate, et cetera. So just a plug for a good resource that's out there, because it's a lot. There's a lot. It's a lot to navigate.
Yes, it is a lot. Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Another question that has rolled in is around engaging the community. So how do you at Fulton County engage the community and other cities within your county on some of your initiatives?
Yeah, so I think we do it in different ways. Sometimes more directly and focused. I know, with the work that we do, we try and set up community meetings and sessions for, the projects and programs that we're leading early on. And we want to do those in the community in partnership with community leaders or community-based organizations or not-for-profits, not have them have to come to us at our county, government office or something, but go to them. And maybe that happens to be at one of our facilities that's, in those local areas and neighborhoods. We have our Fulton County Citizens Commission on the Environment. So those are community members and residents of the county. They're appointed by our Board of Commissioners that help work with the county and myself to help move forward our different aspects of our sustainability and resilience plan, but also be aware of what's happening in their particular areas of the community and what might we not be aware of that we should be looking at. We do a lot of external affairs and communications work as well. We have FGTV, we have a TV station. We do a lot of social media as well, and a variety of different outreach programs. I mean, there's probably so much I don't know about how the community reaches out, how the county reaches out, because we have so many different departments and folks. But those are some of the ways that we're doing it. Yeah, just making sure we're as in tune and as possible with what is happening on the ground.
Sorry, I was on mute, but no, that's great. That's kind of it for the questions we got from the audience, but I have one final question for you.
Sure.
And that is, what advice would you give to others, maybe folks on the call, folks who watch the recording, who are kind of in a similar place that you were in the past, and they want to work to accomplish some of the things you have? What advice would you give them?
Yes. I'd say, I think it can be a little, it can be a lot. It can be a little discouraging at times. I think we're not always the most prioritized in our organizations. I think that is shifting for sure, and necessarily so. But celebrate the wins, whether big or small. I think identify those people early on that you think are interested in what you're doing, want to collaborate, get to know each other, build those relationships, and look at ways that you can collaborate and support each other on your work when you might be a smaller team. Think meet with leadership early as well, get to know them, share a little bit about yourself, and re-inform them or make them aware again of what they might have committed to, and what you're doing and the progress you're making. They're going to want to know the numbers, so make sure you pull those reports from Energy Cap or wherever else you might be pulling them from, and can show them the data and the benefit. And yeah, I think always be willing to learn and grow, right? Identify opportunities to attend different webinars. There's so many great opportunities out there. There's good networks and convenings and so on, where we can always be learning about new and different practices and technologies and things that can help us to do our work better. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that's great, Alex. Thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing so
Sure.
much of your story with us. I really appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you to everyone on the line who joined for the live webinar. As a reminder, this is being recorded and we will publish it on energycap.com. And that is it for this episode of the Eco Champions webinar series. We are hosting a couple more in future weeks, so be sure to go online and register for those if you would like to participate in those conversations as well. Thank you again, Alex, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.